when I was growing up, the neighborhood was rich with history. We had doctors and lawyers and nurses and custodial workers and teachers, and most of blacks were librarians, but all my neighbors are gone. There's no more neighborhood. My house, the lady behind me, is original house. Everything else is gone.
Some call them growing pains. Small towns like Tallahassee, Florida are undergoing a lot of makeovers thanks to expected population growth. Some people are moving out and others are moving in.
You have people that have families here. When we were growing up, it was a family town, you know, with students, but now it's mostly students.
We don't want to exclude a generation of buyers or even generations to come. We must do more, work for more, find reasonable, prudent pathways for millennials.
Millennials, but known here as the students. With Florida State University, Florida A&M University, and Tallahassee Community College all in town, students make up more than 20% of the population, creating conflict between the families that call the city home and the students that want to enjoy their time away from home.
There's always something going wrong. We've had our differences with the city on other issues as well.
The college community is nestled within several other communities, some of which are hundreds of years old. These communities have fought to stay detached from the colleges, but with money on the line and expansion in the plans, it's hard to tell whose wishes are top priority.
This was my grandmother's house. She built this from scratch in 1940. It's prime property. Oh, we had real good property, but we didn't know. If you don't know what you have, you don't have anybody to tell you what you have, and of course nobody's gonna tell you because they're trying to buy it.
Neighborhoods like Frenchtown are targets for student apartments and commercial development since the areas are close to the schools and to nearby businesses. Annually, all the colleges combined bring in about $1.9 billion, a figure that makes many investors build in the areas in the hopes of seeing some of the money. But that same desire to benefit off the students is putting a strain on some communities.
This was my grandmother. This was her friend, Elbert Jones, and he had a mortuary funeral home in Quincy. So they got together. She asked him to come in as partner, and it became Strong and Jones. So when she died, she had my uncle, Robert Strong, to take over the business. And when he passed it to my brother.
Strong and Jones Funeral Home has sat in Frenchtown for decades, but it and the community are being heavily affected by the increasing student presence.
Usually on Wednesday and Thursday nights, they have a lot of partying, and they party around here, and they deface the funeral home. And we can't, you know, like my brother gets the police to come around to help, but they really don't do much, you know, because you got to find somebody, you got to catch somebody. I have students try to kick in the door because he thought he was at home.
The community, which was once filled with longtime homeowners, is now filled with students who rent out the homes in apartments. New townhomes are even being built to cater to the temporary residents. Things are changing in Frenchtown, but other communities are refusing to let their neighborhoods be dictated by others.
There was thought of building high-density housing. That was what was alarming to us because we're a low-density neighborhood. We felt there would then be a move to try and develop the rest of the neighborhood. So we mobilized quite a crowd. I think we probably had about 400 people at a planning commission meeting. They couldn't all get into City Hall. And the commissioners are elected officials, and if public opinion is strong enough in opposition to something they're trying to do, they're probably not going to do it.
But when it comes to changing the minds of elected officials, your voice only matters if you vote. The voting precinct results of the last general election showed that in Pierce's community, roughly 50% of voters voted. Just a few miles away in Dale's community, only roughly 10% of voters voted last election. It's hard to fight change if your community isn't using its voice.
They had meetings and they sent letters saying, hey, come to the city commissioners meeting about the neighborhood, and we didn't go. So when progress came in, we saw it, but we didn't see it, you know. And so now when it's in here now, we're like, well, what happened? What happened is we were blind. But I just don't like that we weren't up on our game and we lost out on a lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, the more we fail to see the symbiotic relationship between rural and urban, the more we're going to do damage to this country.
There's a constant push to make rural neighborhoods like these more urban, and the bad state of some of the homes in the neighborhoods makes it easy for investors to buy up the land.
You know, my grandparents and others lived here. When they raised kids and they went to school and they graduated, they left town. And they didn't want the property that their family members had, and they just left it. So when you leave something, somebody got to pay the property taxes, so the houses go down.
Some of the older residents are moving out or dying, and then the houses become empty, and the issue is trying to find people to take them on. My house is 90 years old, and it's got some of the original plumbing, so you can imagine.
A lot of us here had the opportunity to come together and get the property, but I didn't think about it. I didn't think there was going to be progress.
Many of these old homes get sold and turned into businesses or new housing, making these rural areas more urban as the days go on. But there are some people who refuse to sell their properties. Just west of Florida State University, the Providence community has many concerns about the proposed airport gateway, a road connecting the colleges to the airport that is expected to cut through their neighborhood.
Now you got poor kids on the east side of that street where all them speed bumps are, trying to slow down the traffic where all them school buses stop. And what are y'all planning to do? You're gonna get rid of the speed bumps.
Traffic from the light was backed up past the store, and this is only Tuesday night. I mean, it's like that constantly.
I own property. I have paid over $65,000 in property taxes on the south side of town, and I have nothing to speak for it.
These improvements, whether they're through the original project or this new project or some other entity that makes improvements, need to be made not on the backs of people that live there now.
For many, it seems like the need to make the city more urban is benefiting the younger generations and not the older ones. But the problems between the colleges and city run deep. In 2011, a Town and Gown Committee was created solely to deal with the relationship between the colleges and the community, but the committee dissolved, so the city found other ways to help the situation.
We want to get out and talk to the citizens, and we want to hear what they have to say, and we want to know what they're doing in the community. They see these larger complexes coming in. We have over, like I said, the project on Tennessee Street that's coming in. A lot of development that's moving in from the students that they see. And they see this as their community of single-family residential, and that's something that they're looking at here. And that's what we hear from them, is that they'd like to see more single-family residential and less of the students moving in.
Frenchtown residents wrote their concerns down for the placemaking committee. A top concern was the city's excessive renovation of their neighborhood. But the city says a lot of the construction in Frenchtown is being done by private companies, not the city of Tallahassee. However, the city still plans to listen to residents' concerns. But not even the city can fix some problems.
We didn't pay attention, and we didn't think that they would come and take it. And they didn't take it. We gave it away. And now it's too late. So now they're saying Frenchtown is no longer Frenchtown. Frenchtown's been Frenchtown a long time. They've chipped away at it, like you chip at some ice, and just chip piece by piece by piece. And if you're not paying attention, before you know it, you don't have anything. That wall right there, that was the showroom. I'm gonna miss her. Oh, that just hurts my heart. Yeah, she's gone. My grandma, my mom, my uncle, everybody. And everybody saying, oh, I remember my mom. They buried my mom. They buried my dad. They buried my sister. They buried my niece. And I'm like, yeah, she's gone. the people wanted to purchase the property, and he saw an opportunity for the funeral home to grow and for him to grow. So he sold his property. They didn't pressure him or anything. So yeah, I'm kind of hurt because now it's that whole block. I've never seen that block empty as long as I can live. And I'm 59 years old. I've never seen it empty. So now I can look across the street and just realize something new is coming.
What's coming is a 5-story student apartment development covering 4.9 acres in the middle of the Frenchtown neighborhood. And it's a constant reminder to the residents that change is inevitable for their neighborhood.
Unless our society is static, unless our economy is static, then change is inevitable. So quite often the type of changes we see essentially reproduces many of the inequalities that we have experienced in the past. I would hope that we could find ways to direct change in a way that's just and fair.
In a perfect world, the neighborhoods would not change at all. But that is not the case. Currently, there are several major projects within the communities surrounding the universities. The Cascades project will put housing and businesses near Myers Park, which the community supports since it's away from the residential area. The Providence community is currently fighting the proposed airport gateway, asking that the city instead fix the current roadway instead of constructing a new road. And several major projects are underway in the Frenchtown community, both of which are housing projects.
This was a black neighborhood, and it was prime property right next to the university, and we didn't take care of the neighborhood. So they saw down the road, they saw vision. It was just time for a change, and eventually what I want is for people to remember Frenchtown. You know, I want them to remember this neighborhood, but I doubt it.
These communities are constantly fighting to keep their land free from development. Some have had victories and others are still fighting, but some have a bright future waiting right around the corner.
These are the owners now. That's Lynn Griffin, that's my brother Daryl, and that's my cousin Ray Patterson, and that's Lynn's son Tommy Griffin. Yeah, and they're located on Brevard Street now. The people offered him, I guess, the right money. I don't know how much they made, but offered him the price that he wanted to sell, and it was enough for him to move and for them to move and relocate and keep the business going. So that's what he chose to do. Third building on your left, it says IFS.
Just down the street from the demolished building sits the site of the new Strong & Jones Funeral Home. In just a few months, the funeral home will be up and running in its new location. A new start to an old business.
It was their season, and they're moving right around the corner, but business hadn't changed, you know. It hadn't changed at all. Still dignified, glorified service. Yeah.
Seasons of change. They come and they go, and it seems that change is constantly in season for some communities in Tallahassee, and just like the weather, it is hard to stop the progress. So it may be easier for some to just be a part of it.
I don't blame my brother. I think it's good. It's sad that it's gone from over there because, you know, you're so used to things, seeing things, but you got to move on. It's changed.